Welcome to Smart and Savvy Unedited. I'm Debbie Davis, and I am joined by Carrie Baker and Demi Zunis. How you doing, ladies?
Great.
Excellent. Excellent. It's nice weather. And
I know what a gorgeous fall we're having.
absolutely. So far, so good. The leaves are gorgeous. So you can ask more from Maine, I'll tell you that.
You know, our first segment is someone to watch, and I was online and just fooling around. You know, you go to one site, it leads you, oh, look at this. You go to another site, and 2 hours later, you're coming into reality. But there was a gentleman I learned about, the CEO of 5 Hour Energy. Now, I've drank it. Maybe you guys have. No, Carrie says no.
My son buys a bushel of it every day. Yeah, but go ahead.
His name is Manoj Bhargava, and he's the inventor. He has made so much money on this product that he's now formed this billions in change kind of organization that, in essence, he's given a blank check to some of the finest engineers in the country. Actually, more than that, in the world. And what he's done is decided to they've all gotten together and said the world needs 3 major things. They need to work on the water, the health, and the energy problem. So they've got their minds, they've got prototypes now of some small desalination machines that they want to put in multiples off the coasts of many countries around the world to make sure there's plenty of water, fresh water. Amazing feat. In the energy area, they have a human-powered machine where if you cycle for an hour, you get 24 hours of electricity.
Don't tell my husband about that. He'll have me on the bike every other day. I'll tell you right now. No,
we'd all be in great shape, wouldn't we?
24 hours from 1 hour of cycling.
24 hours from one side. Yeah.
So the benefits would be unbelievable.
Wow.
In the health area, they want to improve human circulation. They want to make some kind of gizmo that goes in the foot and pumps the blood back up to the head, because they claim that a lot of our health issues are stemming from a lack of circulation.
Couch potatoes.
Right.
Wow.
I would combine the
Revel in
second
this
and
one.
third together, I'll tell you right now, right?
Right.
That
You
would
cycle
help,
and
sure.
then you get the circulation right there, but I agree with you. We know that if an elderly person breaks a leg or a hip, it's basically decline city quickly. And so the circulation is a big deal, because if you don't have good circulation, you get up onto a step or you get up from a couch, you're likely to fall because you can't feel your foot, which is a big problem with diabetics.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
So if you want to check it out, go to
nope.
billionsinchange.com. They've got an awesome little movie there you can see.
Excellent.
It's just amazing. Manoj Bhargava.
Thank
go,
you.
Go,
definitely
go.
gonna
I'm going to check it out.
I
That's
am too.
Truly.
I am too. Thank
amazing.
you.
Well, let's get controversial here.
Oh boy.
Woohoo!
Did we all
not us.
watch the Benghazi hearings?
I watched Hillary a little bit, and
I watched a lot of it.
I
Yeah.
did too. What's your impression, Carrie?
Very long. To her credit, she held up extraordinarily well for 11 hours under pressure. I would agree with the news stations that she was very prepared, extraordinarily prepared, handled herself with decorum. But at the end of the day, I took away a couple of things. Being one of the people that really want to know what happened, what really happened, you know, that night, that infamous night, because after that infamous night, when we started being fed the information about that night, we were all told the story of
Some video.
the video, and that there was an uprising in Cairo over this video, and that they were going to arrest the guy. So for those of us who are really just wanted the truth, a couple of things came out of this at the end of the day. And this is all I could glean from like 11 hours of it. And that was that she knew at the end of the day, that night, that very night, that it was not, in fact, a video. I mean, it was pretty obvious. So others, you know, Democrats, liberals, people that are in her camp, they're really not going to care. But for me personally, I was actually glad to hear that at least that one bit of information came out that she knew. And it really did disturb me that, you know, as the coffins she was presiding over the bodies being returned to the States, that she whispered in the family's ears, and every family member, every one of them, said that she whispered, "We're going to get the guy that did the video." And to me, that was the most disingenuous part of it. Now, at the end of the day, do I think personally it's going to, you know, wreck her chances? I honestly don't think so, because I think it's still completely partisan. I think it's still very polarized. It's a polarized camp. You're going to either like her or not like her. I would totally agree with that. But personally, as an American citizen, I am glad to know that at the end of the day, that's what I took from it.
She texted her daughter, Chelsea.
She texted her daughter that night.
And told her...
And told the president of Egypt, too. This one had nothing to do.
It was basically a rebel group that came in. And I don't know if it's ISIS or who it was. Al-Qaeda, whoever it was. But we know for a fact that she knew that night that it wasn't about the video. Yet they said it to all of us in the media that it was. That's an outright lie right there.
Right.
So... It's unfortunate.
And the other thing I want to say about that forum and that venue, she really wanted it to be live. She did not. It was not a situation where the committee, you know, wanted her to be out there in the public. She wanted it out there in the public because for a person who's running for the presidency of the United States, she just got 11 hours.
Grandstanding.
Amazing coverage because she was ready. Unlike the first time they interviewed her, and we all got sound bites out of that. You know, publicly speaking, you know, what difference does it make? We all know that. But she was completely and utterly prepared. And I think for many of those followers, the Clintonites, they were very pleased with the outcome of it. And so I mean, it's all interesting, but I feel badly for the people who died. And it is what it is. And even the questioning was so partisan. It was shocking. From the Democratic side, I mean, it was really, to me, I mean, these are our elected representatives. You know, going back to I'm a registered independent. I wanted somebody, you know, from the Democratic Party to, if they weren't going to participate so much, at least ask some questions, because there are some things that need to be answered, but that was apparent that wouldn't happen.
Nope.
Well, in regard to decorum, I think she was fine when the Democrats were chatting with her, but when the Republicans were chatting with her, you'd see her do this.
Oh, yeah.
Ruffle papers, kind of like, you know, I have other things to do than listen to this question.
But her base loved it. I mean, it really did.
And that's
it's again
sad
partisan.
Because this is in regard to protecting our military on foreign soil.
Absolutely.
And you know, look, people, I might be dating myself, but I was around in the 90s when Bill and Hillary first came on the scene, and it has been nothing but scandal after scandal after scandal. Yeah. And I am tired of it. Yeah. This is why I cannot vote for this woman, because everywhere she goes, there's a scandal. Right. And she claims she either doesn't know or she's already answered all the questions. Absolutely. You know, with this confusion, there's big questions.
Well, haven't you had women friends of yours, you know, say, well, but isn't it time? Isn't it time?
That's what we said with Obama. It was time to vote for a black man. Yeah. I'm sorry, just because it might be time in your mind for a woman to be president, it doesn't mean that we need one that has a questionable integrity.
Exactly.
Oh,
okay.
And that's being polite. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when they ask me,
you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right.
Yeah.
And it's not about, you know, what race, color, gender you are. It's about doing the right thing. And we can't pick somebody just because they fit this, you know, profile that we all would like to see. We have to do what's right in this country. And it's time that we do that.
Next topic, boy with the clock gets invited to the White House. A smart boy, supposedly, 13, makes a clock, takes the innards out of another clock, an electric clock, puts it in a suitcase with some wires, and brings it to school. Now, what teacher, if you're a teacher, wouldn't be alarmed at that? So if he's really smart,
no pun intended.
if he's really smart, why would you do that?
And if they put powder in a box, wouldn't we expect our teachers to clear the room? There could be a dangerous chemical, or some bacteria or something.
No, Debbie, you're crazy. Oh, look at it. It's a ticking suitcase. Isn't that great? What a wonderful project. Move on. No, that's not what
These
you would
poor
do.
teachers, they can't do anything right. It seems, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And honestly, if I were a parent in that school, I am a parent, and if that happened in my school, in a science class or any class, and the teacher wasn't prepared in advance, knowing that this kid was working on the clock, I don't think the teacher knew.
Well, it was for a science fair that didn't exist.
It didn't exist, and he brings a clock into the classroom, and I think that if the teacher didn't respond and react as he or she did, then that teacher is really...
It would have been irresponsible.
Irresponsible.
Yes.
I mean, with all that's going on. Granted, it wasn't a gun, but it was potentially worse.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
But what kills me is it was turned into this racial thing.
Yep.
Just because he is a black boy, suddenly it's because of that the teacher went crazy. No, that's not why. That's not why.
I think we're going to see that this whole PC thing is really getting carried away. The millennials do not care. I mean, listen to the music,
That's
rap.
true.
They've had it with this, and I think you're going to see, which is why the Bernie Sanders, our own Governor Paul LePage, and Donald Trump are taking off, because they're tired of the PC. They're going to say it like it is. And most of us grew up with an Archie Bunker for a dad. At least I did. And we want to know the truth. We're tired of the sugarcoating, the correctness of all the dialogue that's coming out. We want to know what you really think and how you really feel, so we can believe you. So I believe that this has gotten so carried away, and we're rewarding the wrong things.
It almost feels like it was a staged event. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I think it is.
Don't say that, because then we'll be conspiracy theorists.
Well,
but
but
at the end of the day, it really was an intriguing.
Yeah, he gets invited to the White House, and he says, "Oh, I'm glad that I can make a difference in the racial issue." And then him and his family goes and moves back to Qatar.
Yep.
Who sponsors terrorism?
Yeah,
and the country does. I'm not saying he does, but the country does.
Well, and he was, I guess, right after he was extended the invitation to the White House, he appeared in some publications and on the news. A picture of this child with a known
leader.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that I can't think. Terrorist sponsor.
Yeah.
That's known worldwide.
Isn't it amazing? They must have welcomed them with open arms, like, "Oh my gosh, hey, good going. You got into the school with what looks like a bomb. How'd you do it? Let's figure it out."
But at the end of the day, here we are with another polarizing, weird event, where if you are, a Democrat in this country, even if your heart of hearts says, I would hope that a teacher would respond the way that teacher did.
Sure.
You are silent on the issue.
I know.
And heaven forbid anybody even talk about it.
It's amazing.
This is why I'm happy to have this outlet, because we can at least talk about some of these things.
And if we're wrong, we're wrong. It's okay, but we got to talk about these things.
We do.
And we can agree to disagree, as we said last time. We should be able to agree to disagree.
But I flipped around on so many channels when all this was going on, and I do, to see what's out there, what's on ABC, NBC, the regular channels, and then all of the crazy cable channels. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it is astounding how many channels seriously do not report news.
No.
They don't report anything that, if they're biased, they don't show it.
No.
I mean, they will not show you what's going on out there. And I am taken aback every day. I need to go back. I'm retired, but I really need to get a job, because I'm watching too much cable news. I'm watching all of it now, and it's crazy. And then it's very frustrating for me. Again, this is why the Donald Trumps of the world and the Ben Carsons, low energy, high energy, are making some headway.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And the millennials are going to basically, they don't even look at Facebook anymore. They're tired of that. So it goes to show where we are. We're too spoon-fed, and the kids and the young adults are about had it with it.
Yeah.
And that's what our media
Well, they
is
like
doing.
quick sound bites, and you get a quick sound bite on Twitter. It's really hard to
Instagram.
yeah to get a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever you say, Demi, you're absolutely right. We have with us today Representative Heather Siraki. She's from District 28, Coastal Scarborough.
Actually, Country Scarborough.
Country Scarborough. Look at that, I can't even say it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about question 1, which is very interesting. An act to strengthen the Maine Clean Election Act, improve disclosure, and make other changes. I love that. Make other changes to the campaign finance laws. That sounds really good, huh?
It sounds fantastic.
Read the explanation.
It really
Heather.
is kind of deceptive. So happy that Representative Siraki is going to talk about this. So when we look at the ballot, this is what it's going to say.
Right.
Or ask us. They're going to ask us these questions. Do you want to change Maine law to allow publicly financed state candidates to qualify for additional funds under certain limits and rules in the Maine Clean Election Act, to improve the disclosure of who pays for political ads, and to increase penalties for violations of campaign finance law? Now, the average person is going to go,
what is
heck
this mean?
yes. No, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
if you do not understand the nuances and the complete craziness of the way this is worded,
Right.
likely to maybe say yes.
Yes.
So
Well,
help us.
Heather,
help
well,
us.
first of all, what is the Maine Clean Elections Act?
The Maine Clean Elections Act is something that was actually put in by citizen referendum back in the 90s. And I believe the first year it actually was up and running was year 2000. And it provides taxpayer funding for political campaigns. You have to qualify by receiving so many $5 checks from a certain number of constituents, depending on whether it's a House of Representatives seat or the Senate. And at the time, governors too, gubernatorial candidates were eligible. Okay. But we had removed governors from being eligible a few years ago. This proposal actually will put them back into the mix. And they get considerable money. So for instance, for a gubernatorial candidate, for the primary, they would get $1 million. For the general election, they would get an additional up to $2 million. So
right
a total
now?
of $3 million with this proposal.
Or in this question?
No, right now they get zero.
Right now
They're going to put
zero.
the governor race
They're
back
gonna put them
in
back
the mix.
in.
So to be clear, I mean, a lot of people like me, I think we had this conversation. A lot of us don't think about how elections are funded. I'm sorry. You know, we get calls saying, "Do you want our money?"
Right.
But it really isn't in the forefront of anybody's brain or psyche that our taxpayer dollars actually pays for local elections.
Exactly.
And you're saying that
Yes, a person who's going to run for office has two options. They can take public financing, or they can do it the old-fashioned way and traditional way.
And raise money.
And raise money. And in 2010, when I first ran for office, I recognized that the state of Maine was under considerable financial hardship, and I just didn't think it was the right thing to do to ask taxpayers to pay for my lawn signs and fund my political campaign. Right. So I did it the old-fashioned way, asked my constituents, friends, neighbors, supporters, and they sent me, they provided me with $2,900. Mm-hmm. I spent $2,800. Wow. My opponent received the clean election money, about $5,000, so I was outspent by about $2,000. And
you won.
And I won. And what the proponents of this question try to say that these reforms will help everyday people in their government and running for office. And I say, well, I'm an everyday person. I work in a dental office. Beth O'Connor is a waitress married to a truck driver down in Berwick. Yeah. Wayne Perry from Arundel is a lobsterman.
Right. Wow.
And we've never taken a dime of public assistance to run our campaigns.
And that's in essence, in my mind, what it is, public assistance. I can't afford or I don't want to go and raise money. I'll let the taxpayers pay my campaign.
And this bill, by voting no, it keeps the program just as it is. It does not eliminate the program. Voting yes potentially triples the amount of money candidates will get.
Well, let's talk about that. Presently, you mentioned the representatives in the House get about $5,000.
On average, about $5,000.
What does the Senate get?
The Senate gets, well, the Senate on average is $20,000.
Okay, and there's nothing for the governors.
Nothing for the governors.
So if this passes, how much do they all get now?
If this passes, the cap is raised so that just for the general election, so I'm not talking about the primary money, for a House candidate would be $15,000. So from an average of 5 to 15.
That's
a lot.
That's a lot.
And how are you talking about times?
There are 151 representatives, and if there are two, if there is a Republican and a Democrat or an unenrolled candidate or a Green independent thrown into the mix, it potentially could really add up to a lot of money, even just for the House races. And the Senate races, we have 35 senators, so you can do the math there.
How much do they get?
And they get,
if this goes through,
their general election cap is $60,000.
$60,000 for a state Senate seat?
Yes, just for the general election.
Taxpayer dollars.
And then the gubernatorial is?
And the gubernatorial is the $1 million for the primary and an additional $2 million for the general, so a total of $3 million per candidate.
Which is how, when I read something about potentially an additional $6 million of taxpayer dollars just to fund this referendum.
And actually, that's a low ball.
That's a low ball, yeah.
Is it necessary to have $15,000 for a representative to run in the state of Maine?
Well, I won in 2010 with $2,800 that I spent. And many candidates now with the current level of funding return money. So I think the level of money that the taxpayers of the state of Maine now provide for those who choose to participate in the program is sufficient. I don't think that you need to be doing this tremendous growth in spending. Not only that, and I will say that my second race was a targeted race. It was a high-profile race, so it was much more expensive. And when I ran for that, I was told that freshmen are often targeted, and so you better raise more money than $2,800. So I raised about $5,000. And I thought, well, there, I'm now on a par with a clean election candidate.
Right.
Well, it became very quickly apparent that I didn't have even close to enough money. So I ended up raising $16,000. The traditional way. But my opponent took clean election money for $5,000, and she was very fond of tossing out to the public that she was outspent 3 to 1. I actually spent $15,000, but I had raised $16,000, and she got the $5,000 from clean election. But what she doesn't tell you is the independent expenditure. She received $40,000 in independent expenditures.
What do you mean?
Those are outside. Those are
PAC?
Those are, well, it could be PAC money or outside groups that will run ads or
for
do
you. I
for
see.
you, but you can't know about it.
Right.
You technically can't know about it.
Right.
And so that's where this other money comes in. This bill, question 1, there is not one word in that fine print to stop that.
So how is it going to help?
Well,
if they can collect 3 times more money from the taxpayers and yet still keep outside money coming in over here, how does that help?
I don't see that it helps at all. They claim that the transparency is going to somehow deter the outside money because you're going to list the top 3 donors. And what if they list Maine People's Alliance as one of the top 3 donors? You try to find out who they are. They legally can hide and shield their donor list. So there is no transparency.
Right. So why is it only 3 donors? Why isn't it all donors?
No, they don't. Again, even if they list all their donors, if their donors are from front groups, it still shields legally those names.
True.
And then to increase the fines, we asked for an ethics report to look at, so what were the fines in this last campaign? Who was in violation?
Right.
It sounds like there was all this underhanded goings on that we needed to fine, and we need to dramatically increase those fines because it's not enough of a deterrent. Well, when we looked at the original fine, the maximum that's already in place, the Ethics Commission looked at the situations and thought, oh boy, they didn't mean to do this. They missed a filing deadline. It wasn't a big thing. And so those fines were, by the Ethics Commission, were reduced.
Wow.
And so you can have a maximum cap increased, but if they get reduced anyway, because they really aren't candidates that are trying to pull the wool over anything, it's just it's just an innocent. Some of them are just really little innocent mistakes that they get tripped up on.
Heather, you know what's interesting to me about this question is it talks about transparency, yet we don't even know who's funding this whole question. Can you give us what your...
Very good question.
Well, exactly. There are a lot of slick television ads out right now, and one would think that with this group, they would be listing their top 3 donors, but they're not listed.
So they're not being very transparent.
No, I would say that's a little hypocritical.
So who is they? I mean, who is they?
Well,
How did this get on the...
Well, and that's another interesting piece to the whole puzzle here. The Mainers for Accountable Elections has changed names. They have, over the years, have done all sorts of changes. But when you dig into the money, about 80% of the money has come from outside sources, and some is in large checks. Sean Eldridge from New York, who is a Democrat that ran for Congress twice and failed, he has written checks for $100,000, just cut very large checks. And then there's the Proteus Piper Group, which is largely funded by George Soros out of Amherst, Massachusetts. He has sent large sums of money. This group has raised, at last count, $1.3 million. And the group that's in opposition that just formed a couple of months ago has raised about $30,000. So $1.3 million is promoting, and then trying to stop this is a $30,000 effort. There are some lawn signs, as evidenced right here, and a lot of people do view this as welfare for politicians because it is taxpayer funding that's helping to pay for our lawn signs, our campaign materials.
And what really frustrates me is it sounds like once again our state is getting bombarded from outside money to try to tell Mainers what to do.
It sounds like we're a cheap testing ground to me.
It seems, you know, $1.3 million from outside money coming into the state to basically tell us how to elect officials, and I really resent that. I
Same
hate that.
thing happened last year with the Bear referendum.
Right.
How, you know, that was all outside money.
Yeah.
Coming
I think
in.
we're viewed as easy pickings, and we're a small state,
That's
and
not
we're
good.
a poor state. And if you can influence the voters enough with television ads, then you win, your side wins. So trying to get the word out this way, thank you for the opportunity. And there's a No One Question One Facebook page that's very active. There have been a lot of newspaper articles that have been written. I've been making phone calls.
You know, recently, I think yesterday was a pretty big day for No on One, the people that have supported it and tried to get the word out, or the last couple days, because Governor Baldacci, so, you know, this is not clearly just a partisan issue in Maine, and nationally this is going to be coming up in every state. But these referendums are starting to supersede how we legislate in states, and it's a very scary thing because they're usually initiated from outside entities.
Right.
Really scary stuff. I mean, you know, all of a sudden our own states, whether you're from Idaho, hi friends out there, Washington, wherever, you know, the legislation in your state is starting to get hijacked from outsiders. And this is such a key point. But we have former Governor Baldacci, a Democrat, absolutely saying this is not what it seems. He's saying.
He's definitely in opposition.
Opposing it.
That's right. Republican Governor Paul LePage, former Governor Baldacci, a Democrat, is in opposition.
The Maine State Chamber is
the Maine State Chamber and Dana Connors has come out very publicly. Our business community is very concerned about setting precedent with this bill because for the first time, the language of the bill is directing the legislature to find unidentified savings, some low-hanging fruit somewhere. And believe me, I serve on the Appropriations Committee. If there was low-hanging fruit, we would have picked it. It's just not there.
Right.
And so this will hurt our business community to the tune of $6 million and potentially more when we actually have a year when we're going to be looking at funding a lot of races, especially gubernatorial races.
Well, if you are a traditional candidate, why would you be in the future if this passes? When you can simply say, I'm going to go clean and get 15, 20, 30, 60
That's right.
or more $1,000.
And one thing, the viewers, I think I would like to just point this out as well. When we have referendum questions, it skirts around the legislature. It bypasses the legislative process, the checks and balances that are in place with our system, which means that the voter is the legislator. It is your job to then read the fine print and to read the text of this bill, not just the question on the ballot.
Where is the text of this bill?
The text is located on the Secretary of State's website. You have to snoop around a little bit, but it is there, all 13 pages of it. So it's the devil's in the details. You need to read this fine print before you vote on this. This is a very complex bill. I spoke with John Kinney, representative out of Leamington, he's the House lead for the Republicans on Veterans and Legal Affairs, and he said this bill was brought before his committee and it failed 12-1, which means a large number of the Democrats also voted against this.
Right, right.
This has not been vetted. It has been vetted. It's been voted out of committee and failed. This is not a good idea for the people of Maine or for the future of the state. This is outside groups, outside money coming in, trying to influence the way we run our elections.
I can only imagine who the one person was who voted for it on the committee, but don't answer that. That's okay.
Nice, Debbie.
I'll
play
play
nice. Okay.
Tell me later.
Representative Siraki, thank you so much for bringing this important issue to the forefront here. So there's a Facebook page.
There's a Facebook page called No on Question 1. We all get the opportunity to vote this down on November 3rd, so I encourage everybody to go vote. You can vote now. Thursday is the last day you can vote early.
That's right.
And then you have to wait until Tuesday, November 3rd, and we really hope that this initiative fails.
What if it doesn't?
If it doesn't, it's Maine law.
We'll have more money taken out of our
We're probably going to have $20 million taken out of our
budget. It will be millions. This is a very lowball figure, I can tell you, because just 2 gubernatorial races would be this $6 million.
Oh my gosh.
Scary.
That's scary. That's craziness.
Well, there you go. Vote no. Vote no.
Vote
on
no.
question
Vote no.
1.
No.
We need to fund teachers and healthcare.
The elderly, the disabled.
We don't need to fund politicians.
Better places for our money to be going to other than the campaigns of politicians.
Oh my goodness, no. Anyway, that was
Thanks for
fantastic.
joining us.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. You are the best.
I hope that
Thank you.
helped.
And thanks for all the other work that you do. You're one of the hardest working. You give politicians a good name. You're one of the hardest working.
Well, I like to say I'm a citizen legislator.
You're a legislator. You are a citizen legislator. Yes, you are.
So there are, and I'd like to say that the legislative process can work and does work on many bills.
Yes.
And to me, this kind of thing really is where this should be. It should be with the legislature.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wanted to bring up something that you'll be able to do at the polls this week. It is an opportunity to sign your name to a citizens initiative. And it is the Maine GOP officially files Citizens Initiative to help end welfare, fraud, and abuse while boosting Maine's economy and creating good jobs with reducing the individual income tax for Maine's hard-working families. So in essence, this is going to tackle 2 things, right?
Yeah.
Welfare, fraud, and abuse, and lower our personal income tax. And it's a citizens initiative.
And I think it's just a signature gathering.
Yes, it is.
Time at the polls, because I think they need like 62,000 signatures for the 2016 elections. And I think it's a Maine GOP initiative, and I think if I'm correct, what our governor could not push through during legislation, he hopes to do through this people's petition. Mind you, I think it is going to go in front of the legislature to be voted on, even though the signature portion of the petitions are going to continue on. And I think it's going to start election day of basically this year.
Right. Right.
Because they need
Well,
somebody's
it's a good
signature.
opportunity to collect signatures then.
Yeah.
So it's different from a referendum.
Right. They're just collecting.
For
this-
2016, it might be a referendum for 2016.
16.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I think it's about, they want to lower, I think this is Governor LePage's hope to lower income tax by, I think, 0.8% per year for the next 4 years. So we're in line with all the other states in the country. We're one of the highest.
We certainly are.
And my concern is people like me, the baby boomers, are going to decide to retire to Florida where there's no income tax.
That's correct.
And you will leave the state poorer than it was, because if our tax base moves as we age, where will the tax money come from?
That's already the case. That's been the big
And you-
issue. It
yeah.
has been the case for several years.
Yes.
It's not a friendly state when it comes to.
No.
It's not friendly to business. It's not friendly to our
And,
pocketbook.
and, you know,
Income tax.
we don't, you know, a lot of people don't want to increase sales tax. Where are the taxes going to come from if the people that pay the income taxes retire and move? We're going to have a problem. And I think that we need to lower taxes. I don't know what the magic number is. I do feel strongly we need to look at this as a Mainer, which is what I am, for our children. And I have 2 grown children, and I'm concerned about who's going to care for them in the
Yeah,
future if we all retire.
That's true.
I think we need to all really be concerned about this, and there will be a petition, and I think that they're going to try to gather, my understanding, half the signatures during this election cycle, which is usually what happens with most referenda that come along.
And you know, people, you know, will say that, you know, the welfare fraud. There's all sorts of, you know, passion on both sides, and, you know, just speaking for myself,
Right.
nobody wants to see somebody who's truly needy not get what they need.
No,
But
and
at
that's
the end,
not what this is.
It's not. But you know, whenever you try to fix a system, improve the system, it is always flung back in the faces of
I know.
most people that we are just bad people. You know, I didn't come from a lot of wealth, but I will tell you that, you know, it was always about a hand up. I mean, we need to get people, you know, on their own legs, standing on their own
Yes.
legs. Give them all of it that they need so that they don't get stuck in a way of life that's
Right.
just, you know, and that's part of it.
And my biggest concern is that folks with the EBT cards, instead of caring for the children,
Yes.
which we're all for.
Absolutely.
I run a free dental clinic, so I would know. But I got to be honest with you, they're buying booze, they're buying cigarettes, they're buying tattoos, and they're not caring for their children.
And not everybody, not everybody.
No.
We're talking about
We're talking about the few.
Yes.
But it is going on. And if we tighten the belt a little bit on the system just to not allow that, I mean, there's nothing lost here, only to gain. I feel strongly with this. And again, it's because I care about children, and I can't stand when I stand in line in the grocery store and I see a lady with a little baby in the carriage buying booze and cigarettes. It's hard for me to watch. This unedited, right? No, I was kidding.
It
But,
is unedited.
And because of that, I want to make clear that my family was never on welfare. I'm just saying, because if they watch, they're going to be mad at me. That was not the impression I was trying to give.
My family was on welfare when I was very young. And that was the situation. And boy, I can tell you, we did not have anything like they get now.
Yeah.
No.
No.
And you know, I'm kind of glad because it was, I would just rather, I'd rather dig ditches
Yeah.
than go on welfare.
Right.
That's just me.
I agree.
I understand that it's there for the needy, and I want it there for the needy. If I become 98 years old and can't do anything and need money and help, I want it to be there for me.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I'm not going to be buying tattoos with it, I can tell
No,
you.
and my family in Maine was very poor. My dad was much older than my mom, became very ill and couldn't work. And we were, acquiring cheese and dry powdered milk.
The mystery meat.
The mystery meat. My family, for a short period of time while my dad was unemployed. And in those days, there weren't unemployment bennies like there are
Right.
today. This is in Saco, and I remember it.
Yeah.
I don't remember it in a negative way. My mom was incredibly resourceful, and she was one special lady raising 4 little children by herself as a young mom. But I will tell you that we need people like that pick themselves up and continue on and educate their children to, if you will, to get a higher education, as my mom and dad did. Thanks to them that I'm here today and being able to do what I do. But, you know, we need to change the culture so we help those that need it and yet not promote it as a way of life. My honest opinion, you know.
Well, we all going out to vote this time
Yes.
around, gals?
I will be. I will
Absolutely.
be. Absolutely. I feel if you want to complain, you have to have the right to do so by voting.
Yes.
You just can't go out and just, you know, bitch and not vote. And you have to vote. And so otherwise, I don't think you should be complaining.
But be informed. Don't vote with your emotions. Be informed about the topics first, especially you ladies.
Yes.
And hopefully we've
go.
done that.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will see you next time on Smart and Savvy Unedited.